Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, I talk all the time about how wonderful our tributaries are, but here's something even more special about them. This time of the year, they become full of St. Lawrence River fish that go up there to spawn. And so you've got all these wonderful opportunities. But let's talk now about the Grass River. And in another report, I talked about the Oswegatchie River. But the Grass River right now is a wonderful place to go. I don't think the bass have established themselves enough yet in some of the pools. They've sort of come up to wherever they go in the winter, and they're still finding the places they want to be now in the springtime. But there are a tremendous number of bass in these waters. And when the water's down like it is right now, the Grass River is easier to fish than it is when the water's rolling higher. But one of the things I did want to talk about is another one great thing about the Grass River is the muskie fishing that exists there. And I called my buddy Russ the other day. I know this is a huge thing for him. And I just called him to see he'd hurt his back and he hadn't been fishing as much lately. And I wanted to find out just what he'd been doing. And he told me he and his friend Melissa went in the Grass River for muskies. And they did have some wonderful results. The thing that made it so great for them is that first of all, the muskie season opens earlier upstream in the Grass than it does in the St. Lawrence River. So it is legal to fish these fish now, even though it's all catch and release for them. But Russ told me that they found the fish where they wouldn't have thought they would have found them. They found the fish in one of the streams that comes into the Grass River. Apparently they hadn't come out into the main river yet. And this was really interesting. He said they caught some northern pike as well. But the whole point of this report is to tell you why that's a big deal to Russ, and it could be to you too. He said, I'd fished earlier this year. Russ and I'd fished for northern pike a lot of times. And all the time we go, Russ would always exclaim, gosh, he'd go, I love northern pike. And I'd ask him why. And he said they're just this wonderful fish that is so fierce, and their strikes are so hard and vicious and so forth. And I says, well, Russ, tell me why muskies are different than northerns to you. Which do you enjoy more? And he says, I think muskies. And then I said, why? And he told me, he said, I think it's because it's all visual, and that adds to the excitement. With muskies, they're fishing them basically on the surface. Even right now, this time of the year, they cast right up to shore, and they're bringing their soft plastic baits back across the surface. And what it is with muskie fishing is you see that wake when that muskie spots your lure and starts coming for it. You see it coming. It adds to the excitement and the anticipation. It's incredible. He said, I don't think muskies strike quite as viciously as northern pike. Remember, they're the same family. And we always said that pickerel, which is the smallest member of that family, were the most vicious. I guess because they're smaller, they're trying to prove themselves worthy of the pike name. But anyway, I think northern pike do strike maybe more fiercely when they do hit than muskies do. But with muskies, it's the tremendous visual experience. And you can't beat that. That's what makes fly fishing so much fun. When you see a fly floating along the water and you're watching and you see that fish come up and jump on the surface when it hits. That's one of the real great parts of that type of fishing. And it is certainly what makes Russ love muskie fishing so much. There's a lot more to that, of course, than just the visual thing. But now the Grass River should be a destination point because bass and muskies are all open there, and you never know what you're going to catch. I will tell you also, I've caught many walleyes in the Grass River through the years that were now I'm going to sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. That were 30 inches long. That's a huge walleye, and I will tell you that. All of those walleyes were caught on either streamers with a fly rod or a long bucktail jig I'm talking made out of horsehair that was over a foot long. And most recently, I caught a lot of big walleyes using Hydra swim baits in their biggest size. Now, the one thing about these walleyes, though they might exceed 30 inches long, they don't have near the weight that those walleyes do in the St. Lawrence River. So don't expect a record fish, but they're beautiful walleyes in the Grasse River. They're golden. They're like chartreuse on the bottom, on their bellies, and it really makes them an added attraction. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.